A tremendous pleasure to be speaking with you today.
Now back to the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show on AM800.
All right, welcome back to the show. I am Dan Gemus, Kathy Talbot in studio with me today, and it's time for our insurance segment of the week with Chris Gibb from Gibb Insurance Brokers. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I am absolutely fabulous. How's the team doing today?
Well, we're awesome. We're always feeling awesome.
There you go. You know what, Kathy? Yeah, you can't not feel awesome when you're with Kathy Talbot. So that's
very
fantastic.
True. Very true, Chris. Very true. So what's our topic today?
You know what I thought of talking about? You know, we're getting to that time of year when our snowbirds head south, and I thought it would be important to remind people about what you have to think about when you leave your home during the heating season.
Now, I would think, Chris, that snowbirds would head south if there was snow. There is no sight of any snow here in Windsor-Essex. In fact, it's still summer weather. So I wonder if people might skip the snowbird season this year.
Well, that could happen. I work for a living, so I have to stay in town and just be jealous of everyone who gets to go to Florida and Arizona.
Your time will come, Chris.
Eventually, yes.
All right. So what tips do we have for those who are heading south for the winter?
Okay, so, and this isn't just snowbirds. Even if you're going away on vacation, most home insurance policies, or almost all home insurance policies, have language in there about what you have to do if you're away from your home during what they call the regular heating season.
Okay.
So generally, if you're going to be away from the home for more than 3 or 4 days, your home insurance policy has language in there that you're required to have a responsible person checking in on your home just to make sure that there's no issues with the heat going off and then pipes freezing.
Now, who qualifies as responsible?
Well, that's a very good question. Probably one out of the 3 of us right now.
The question is, which one? Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, do you have to call your insurance company and tell them who's watching it and all that stuff?
No, you don't have to do that. But you know, if you go away and the furnace goes out and then you come home and you've got 6 inches of water in the basement because the pipes froze and there's damage, your insurance company is going to ask you, well, who was taking care of the house? And it can be a neighbor. Exactly. A neighbor, a friend, as long as it's a quote unquote responsible person. And that's during the heating season.
That's fair. That's fair. Sure.
Yeah. Now, my big thing, and I drive my family crazy with this, is if we're leaving the house for an extended period of time, I always turn the water off. I always do that. It seems like that's the one thing that nobody thinks is going to happen. And then they come home after a vacation and a toilet line burst or that infamous line to your ice machine in your fridge. So I always turn the water off as a little extra protection, but you definitely want to have someone responsible keeping an eye on your home.
Okay, fair enough. Any other specific tips?
No, I mean, it's, again, when you're away from the home, that responsible person can be making sure there's no packages left at the front door. They can make sure that your driveway's cleaned, or at least, have tire tracks in the snow so that it looks like somebody's home. Again, you want to make sure that not only do you want to avoid water damage, but you also want to avoid letting the ne'er-do-wells know that you're not home.
Now, Chris, what about auto insurance with those who are traveling down south for a longer period of time? Anything to consider there?
Yes, your auto insurance companies do not want you to be traveling in the U.S. for more than 6 months at a time.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you go for 3 months, not a problem. You're coming back to Ontario. But once you hit more than 6 months that your vehicle is away from Ontario, they start to have questions about that, because then they wonder, where is this vehicle really being used, and is it properly insured? Another thing I always suggest to people when you go to the U.S., you might want to think about upping your liability insurance from the usual 1 million. Most people have 1 million liability. I always suggest everybody bump it up to 2 million because you're dealing with American money down there. If you cause an accident and get sued, and generally American courts, they look at Canadians as quote unquote foreigners. So they're a little bit harsher with their judgments when it's a non-American who gets into an accident down there.
Now, you mentioned being away from the province for more than 6 months. Would the same apply if you're going, interprovincial? So if you're going to Manitoba or to Vancouver for some time, or does that not matter?
That's a little bit more of a gray area when you're interprovincial within Canada. But it's definitely a conversation to have with your insurer to make sure you're on the right side of the law. It's always best to let your broker know what you're doing, and your broker can figure out the way to keep you properly insured.
Okay, fair enough. Now, before we go anywhere, I always like to ask you about what's happening from a municipal standpoint. Chris Gibb is our deputy mayor in the town of Amherstburg. What are you seeing happening municipally?
Well, we're into budget season, so we've got we're starting to see some of the other municipalities in and around Windsor and Essex County developing their budgets. So that's going to be something we're going to be talking about in Amherstburg. I want to say is it next week or for some reason the 18th pops into my head.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be tabling the budget in Amherstburg on November 18th. LaSalle, as of right now, LaSalle, Tecumseh, Essex. Everybody's heard about the city of Windsor. Every municipality is starting to work on their 2025 budget, so that'll be that's why I don't get to go away. I get to stay home and fret over the municipal budget. Lucky me.
Now, in the news this week, we all heard about LaSalle and Mayor Crystal Malash talking about their increases that are expected in LaSalle. We've obviously heard of the increases in Windsor. What are your thoughts on that? Are you expecting the same would be happening in the other municipalities across Windsor-Essex County? It's got to be a challenge right now with costs rising. And what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, it really is. It's a challenge everywhere with just the costs of the things that municipalities have to pay for. Road construction, wastewater, water system, water treatment plants, all those big construction intensive costs have gone through the roof just because they're expensive everywhere. And then in Windsor and Essex County, we've got the added upward pressure because we've got a massive build at the Gordie Howe Bridge. You've got the battery plant that's being built. So that's really putting pressure on our construction trades, and the costs filter through to the municipalities. And you have to remember in Windsor and Essex County, we're in a peninsula. So there's only so many construction companies in the area. So it does definitely drive up the cost for the municipalities when we're redoing roads or sewer work or all those other fun things that we have to do to maintain our infrastructure.
Great. So super news all around then.
So there's another reason why you're not going away.
Got to keep working to pay those property taxes.
That's right.
Holy moly. Okay, listen, Chris, if anyone has questions about real estate, about insurance, or about the property taxes, how do they reach out to you?
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. Well, if you're calling about insurance, you can always call the office, 519-736-8228, or shoot an email. That's usually the easiest way, chris@gibbinsurance.ca.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All the best. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
You got it. That's Chris Gibb with Gibb Insurance Brokers. Lots of great information there. We'll be back with more right here on the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show.